A study conducted by the Maine Hospital Association reveals larger hospitals in the state are poor, heavily in debt, and operating in older facilities. MHA's board-directed staff worked with a national firm to analyze the financial condition of Maine hospitals and compare it to pre-pandemic levels. According to the MHA president, Maine hospitals never rebounded from the pandemic. Maine ranks as 5th in the oldest facilities, 2nd most in debt, and 5th worst regarding operating margins or financial performance. Maine is also the 9th worst in terms of cash flow. The president says it's important for community members to take a look into the current state of healthcare in Maine. However, he says the study is really done to get the attention of lawmakers in order to keep an important conversation going regarding an essential industry.
You can't dig out of this financial hole without really changing what we do. But we can't have state budgets cutting us in our Medicaid payments and taxing us and causing more mandates while we're trying to reform what we do. So that's our real message. But to the average person, yeah, I think what we're in for is some difficulty. There's no question. I mean, they have absolute access to the hospitals that are there. They're open 24/7, 365 days to serve them. But I think we all need to understand that this is not sustainable.
The full version of the study can be found on our website and mobile app. Something for viewers to keep in mind: if you look at the study, you'll see abbreviations like PPS and CAH. PPS is Prospective Payment System, which is a fixed payment given to hospitals. CAH is Critical Access Hospital, which is the most rural small hospitals in the state, and Maine has 18 of them.